The galaxy had known war for 10,000 years. Every species understood the pattern. The tall ones from the ice worlds fought with precision. The bug people used swarm tactics. The rock folk relied on heavy armor and slow advances. War was predictable, almost ceremonial. Captain Rex stood on the bridge of the human ship New Dawn, watching the alien fleet approach. The Claw Empire had sent their standard formation, 300 ships in perfect geometric patterns. Admiral Kane studied the enemy formation through the viewscreen. "They're following Pattern 7, said Lieutenant Fox, the tactical officer. "Same as always." The Claw Empire had conquered 40 systems using the same tactics. They would position their heavy ships in the center, light fighters on the flanks, and support vessels in the rear. Then they would advance in orderly lines, exchange fire at maximum range, and the side with better technology would win. "Sir, they're hailing us," reported Communications Officer Bell. The screen flickered, showing General Vex of the Claw Empire. His reptilian features were calm, almost bored. "Human Commander, we offer you the standard terms. Surrender your outer colonies, pay tribute, and your core worlds will be spared." Admiral Kane leaned forward. "And if we refuse? Then we follow." Pattern 7. "You have studied our previous battles, yes? You know how this ends." Kane smiled. "Actually, General, we haven't studied your previous battles much. We've been busy doing something else." General Vex looked confused. "What do you mean? We've been breaking patterns." The transmission ended. General Vex turned to his aide, a younger claw warrior named Tor. "What did the human mean?" "Unknown, General. Perhaps a translation error?" Vex studied the human fleet. Only 50 ships against his 300. The humans had positioned themselves in a loose cluster. No formation at all. It violated every principle of space warfare. They must be inexperienced. Vex decided. "Begin Pattern 7. The Claw fleet moved forward in perfect synchronization. Centuries of tradition guided every movement. The heavy battleships advanced at exactly the right speed. The fighters maintained precise spacing. The support ships followed at the calculated distance. On the human ridge, Admiral Kane watched the enemy approach. "Tactical, what's their formation telling us?" Lieutenant Fox consulted his display. "Classic hammer and anvil, sir. They expect use to match their formation, then trade shots until someone breaks." "Then what does our formation tell them?" "That we have no idea what we're doing." Kane grinned. "Perfect. All ships, execute Plan Chaos." Across the human fleet, captains received their orders. Captain Rex felt his pulse quicken. 6 months of training for this moment. The humans had studied every recorded space battle in galactic history. They found the pattern that connected them all. Everyone fought the same way. The Claw fleet reached optimal firing range. General Vex raised his claw to give the attack order. The humans should respond by spreading into battle formation. Instead, something impossible happened. Half the human ships vanished. "Where did they go?" demanded Vex. His sensor operator's voice shook. "Unknown, General. They just disappeared." The remaining human ships suddenly accelerated, not toward the Claw fleet, but perpendicular to it. They moved faster than any ship should be able to move. "Impossible," whispered Tor. "Nothing can accelerate that quickly without killing the crew." General Vex stared at the display. In 10,000 years of galactic warfare, no one had ever done anything like this. The humans weren't following any known pattern. They weren't following any pattern at all. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the human admiral." Kane's face appeared on screen again. "General Vex, you said we should have studied your previous battles." "But we did." "Study them. All of them. Do you know what we learned?" Vex couldn't speak. We learned that every species in this galaxy fights exactly the same way you do. You all follow the same patterns, use the same formations, make the same assumptions. You've been fighting the same war for 10,000 years. The human ships that had vanished suddenly reappeared behind the Claw fleet. But humans? Kane's smile was cold. We've only been fighting wars for a few thousand years, and we've never fought the same war twice. The screen went dark. General Vex stared at his tactical display as human ships moved in patterns that violated everything he knew about warfare. For the first time in his military career, he had no idea what would happen next. The age of predictable war was about to end. General Vex watched his perfectly ordered fleet fall apart. The human ships moved like nothing in recorded history. They appeared and disappeared, accelerated in impossible directions, and ignored every law of space combat. "Report," he barked at his sensor operator. "The humans are using some kind of micro-jump technology," the young Claw warrior stammered. "They're making tiny faster-than-light jumps inside the battle zone." "Impossible. FTL drives can't function so close to gravity wells and energy fields." "Yet they're doing it, General." Vex studied the tactical display. Red dots representing human ships blinked in and out of existence around his fleet. Each time they reappeared, they were closer, in a different position, impossible to predict. On the new dawn, Admiral Kane coordinated the chaos. Alpha Group, jump to Grid 77. Beta Group, maintain current vector. Gamma Group, prepare for close engagement. Captain Rex piloted his ship through a microjump, emerging directly above a Claw battleship. The enemy's weapons were still pointed where his ship had been 3 seconds ago. Rex's crew fired a full spread of missiles into the battleship's unprotected dorsal section. "How are we surviving these jumps?" asked his navigator, Lieutenant Gray. "Dampening fields," Rex explained, pulling his ship into another impossible turn. "Doc Williams figured out how to create a bubble of normal space around our ships. The FTL field forms outside the bubble." It was brilliant and insane. Traditional military doctrine said microjumps were suicide. The stress would kill any crew, and the energy requirements were astronomical. But human engineers had found a way. They always found a way. General Vex watched another of his battleships explode. The humans weren't just using impossible technology. They were using it in impossible ways. No formation, no pattern, no predictable strategy. "Sir, request new orders," transmitted Captain Dex from the heavy cruiser Clawstrike. "The enemy is—" "I don't understand what they're doing." None of them did. Vex had studied at the finest military academies in Claw space. He knew the 17 classical battle formations, the 43 standard tactical responses, and the 108 historical variations. Everything the humans were doing violated basic military theory. "Maintain formation," Vex ordered. "Execute defensive pattern 12. A defensive pattern 12 assumed the enemy would attack from predictable vectors. The humans attacked from everywhere and nowhere. They appeared inside his formation, struck hard, then vanished before return fire could reach them. Admiral Kane watched the Claw fleet trying to adapt. They moved their ships into a defensive sphere, weapons pointing outward, in all directions. It was the logical response to an unpredictable enemy. It was also exactly what Kane expected. "All ships, execute Thunder Run," he transmitted. Captain Rex received the order and felt his stomach drop. Thunder Run was the most dangerous maneuver in their playbook. A coordinated micro-jump directly into the center of the enemy formation. Navigation. Plot jump coordinates. Engineering. Maximum power to shields. His crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had drilled this maneuver hundreds of times in simulation. Now they would try it in actual combat. Across the human fleet, 50 ships prepared for the same suicidal jump. If the timing was off by even microseconds, they would materialize inside each other. If the enemy predicted their target zone, they would emerge into a wall of fire. But General Vex couldn't predict anything about the humans. They had broken every rule he knew. "Jump," Kane ordered. 50 human ships vanished simultaneously. For 3 seconds, space around the Claw fleet was empty. Then 50 ships materialized in the exact center of the enemy formation. The Claw defensive sphere became a trap. Their weapons were pointed outward, but the enemy was now inside. To fire on the humans, they would have to shoot through their own ships. All ships, emergency dispersion. Vex commanded, but it was too late. The human ships unleashed everything they had at point-blank range. Missiles, energy beams, and kinetic projectiles tore through the packed Claw formation. Ships collided trying to escape. The perfect geometric order collapsed into chaos. Captain Rex watched enemy ships explode around him. "This is insane," his weapons officer muttered. "That's the point," Rex replied. "Sanity is predictable." In 10 minutes of impossible combat, 50 human ships destroyed or crippled over 200 Claw vessels. The survivors fled in disorder, their formation shattered, their tactics useless. General Vex stared at his display in shock. Half his fleet was gone. The other half was running. And he still didn't understand how it happened. The humans had rewritten the rules of war in a single battle. News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the crystal halls of the Mind-Benders, ancient telepaths struggled to process what they had witnessed. On the forge worlds of the Iron Brotherhood, master tacticians stared at battle recordings in disbelief. The war was no longer predictable. Commander Stone sat in the emergency session of the Galactic War Council. Representatives from 47 species filled the massive chamber, their various forms creating a bizarre assembly. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. The humans have introduced chaos into a system that has maintained stability for millennia, declared High General Vox of the Stone Crushers. His rocky features showed deep concern. "This cannot be allowed to continue." Admiral Wave of the Deep Swimmers rippled her tentacles in agreement. "Our naval doctrines have served us well for thousands of years. If every species begins fighting, like humans, warfare will become unpredictable." Commander Stone listened to their fears with growing understanding. These species weren't just concerned about losing battles, they were terrified of losing the structure. That made war comprehensible. "Perhaps we should study their methods," suggested Scholar Prime 10 of the Hive Mind. "Adaptation has always been the key to survival." A chorus of objections erupted across the chamber. The Bug Queen clicked her mandibles angrily. "The patterns exist for good reason. They prevent unnecessary slaughter. They make war controllable." General Nax of the Red Fleet stood up. His cybernetic implants glowed as he accessed the battle data. "I have analyzed the human engagement with the Claw Empire. Their casualty ratio was unprecedented. They achieved total victory with minimal losses." "At what cost?" demanded High Priestess Luna of the Star Worshippers. "They violated every sacred principle of honorable combat." Stone realized something important. The other species didn't see the humans as simply having better tactics. They saw them as cheaters who had broken a sacred game. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Adams met with his military advisors. The room was cramped compared to the Galactic Council chambers, but the energy was electric. "Sir, we're receiving communications from dozens of species," reported Secretary Cole. "Some want to form alliances. Others are demanding we stop using our irregular tactics." Admiral Kane, fresh from his victory, leaned back in his chair. "They want us to fight fair. Problem is, fair fighting means predictable fighting. And predictable fighting means whoever has the bigger fleet wins. The galaxy has been stable because warfare was ritualized, added Dr. West, the chief military historian. Everyone knew what to expect. Battles were almost like chess games with predetermined moves. President Adams nodded. And we just flipped the chessboard over. A door chimed, and an aide entered with urgent news. Sir, the Void Hunters have declared war on us. They're mobilizing their entire fleet. Stone's heart sank. The Void Hunters were the galaxy's most feared military force. They had never lost a battle in 3,000 years. Their fleet was 10 times larger than humanity's. How long until they reach our space? Adams asked. 6 weeks, sir. In the depths of space, War Master Grimm commanded the largest military fleet ever assembled. 5,000 ships of the Void Hunters moved in perfect formation toward human space. His species had perfected the art of warfare through sheer overwhelming force. The humans will learn that chaos cannot defeat order, he told his bridge crew. We will show the galaxy that the old ways still work. But on a small research station near the outer rim, Dr. Black was having different thoughts. She had been studying the human victory recordings for days, and something bothered her. Computer, show me the tactical analysis of the Claw Empires. Formation, she commanded. The holographic display showed the battle from multiple angles. Dr. Black was a military theorist from the scholar worlds, and she prided herself on understanding every nuance of combat. The humans didn't just use new technology, she murmured. They used new thinking. She paused the recording at the moment the human ships performed their impossible Thunder Run maneuver. Computer, calculate the probability of success for this. Attack using standard tactical doctrine. Probability of success, 0.03%. This maneuver violates 17 principles of established military theory. And yet it worked perfectly. Dr. Black studied the data. They didn't break the rules because they were desperate. They broke them because the rules were wrong. A chill ran through her as she realized the implications. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had proven that everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare was incomplete as War Master Grimm's massive fleet approached human space. Dr. Black made a decision that would change everything. She opened a secure communication channel to Earth. This is Dr. Black of the Scholar Worlds. I need to speak with Admiral Kane immediately. I think I know how to help you win an impossible war. War Master Grimm's fleet filled space like a metal storm. 5,000 ships arranged in the eternal formation. A battle array that had crushed empires and conquered star systems. Never defeated, never even seriously challenged, Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the new dawn, studying the massive enemy force approaching Earth. The human fleet numbered only 300 ships. The odds were overwhelming. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Dr. Black, reported Lieutenant Fox. The screen showed a thin alien woman with large, dark eyes. Her species was known for their analytical minds, not their military prowess. Admiral Kane, I've studied your victory over the Claw Empire. I believe I understand what you're doing. Kane raised an eyebrow. And what's that, Doctor? You're not just using different tactics. You're thinking about war in a fundamentally different way. Dr. Black's voice was excited. Every species in the galaxy sees warfare as a competition between opposing forces. But humans see it as a problem to solve. Captain Rex, monitoring from his own ship, felt a spark of recognition. That was exactly how they had approached the Claw Empire battle, not as a traditional engagement, but as a puzzle with an unexpected solution. The Void Hunters are using the Eternal Formation, Dr. Black continued. It's considered unbeatable because it has no weaknesses. But that's not true. It has no known weaknesses. Kane leaned forward. Go on. I've run thousands of simulations. The formation is perfect for fighting other conventional fleets, but it was never designed to handle chaos warfare. There's a gap in their logic. On the Void Hunter flagship, War Master Grimm prepared for glorious battle. His species had evolved for warfare. Their entire culture revolved around military perfection. They had studied every human tactical innovation and prepared countermeasures. The humans will try their jumping tricks, he told his staff. We have. Spread our formation wide enough that they cannot materialize safely inside it. They will try their chaos attacks. We have overlapping fields of fire that cover every vector. Sub-Commander Blade nodded. The Eternal Formation has defended against every known tactic. Exactly. The humans may be creative, but creativity cannot overcome mathematical certainty. Dr. Black's transmission continued. Admiral, the Eternal Formation's strength is also its weakness. It's so perfectly balanced that every ship depends on every other ship. Remove the right pieces, and the entire structure collapses. She highlighted several points on the formation diagram. These ships are structural linchpins. They're not the most powerful or the most heavily defended, but they hold the formation together. Target these 12 ships, and 5,000 becomes chaos. Kane studied the data. It was elegant and terrifying. Doctor, why are you helping us? Doctor. Black paused. Because for the first time in galactic history, someone has proven that there are new ways to think about old problems. That's worth preserving. The human fleet moved to intercept the Void Hunters. Instead of their usual chaotic deployment, they formed a tight wedge formation, completely conventional and utterly predictable. War Master Grimm smiled. The humans have learned wisdom. They will fight properly now. But Admiral Kane had one more. Surprise! As the fleets closed to engagement range, he opened a channel to the entire Void Hunter fleet. War Master Grimm, I want to propose something unprecedented. Grimm's scarred face appeared on screen. Humans do not dictate terms to the Void Hunters. Not terms, a wager. Kane's voice was calm. Your formation against our chaos. Winner takes all. But let's make it interesting. Explain. Single combat. One of your ships against one of ours. If you win, we surrender without firing another shot. If we win, your fleet withdraws. Grimm laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You would risk everything on a single engagement? That's what humans do. It was a brilliant psychological move. The Void Hunters prided themselves on individual combat prowess. Their culture demanded they accept such a challenge. But Kane had another motive. He needed to separate one ship from their perfect formation. Very well, Grimm decided. My flagship. Against yours. The two fleets pulled back, creating an arena in space. War Master Grimm's massive battleship Death's Edge moved forward. It was twice the size of the New Dawn, armed with weapons that could crack planets. But as the Void Hunter flagship separated from the formation, Captain Rex and 11 other human ships were already moving. They had micro-junked to positions. Around the Void Hunter fleet, while all eyes were on the single combat. Now, Kane transmitted, 12 human ships appeared simultaneously at the exact locations Dr. Black had identified. They fired everything they had at the structural linchpin vessels, then jumped away before return fire could reach them. War Master Grimm watched in horror as his perfect formation began to collapse. Ships collided as their predetermined positions became death traps. The mathematical certainty of the eternal formation crumbled into chaos. Impossible, he whispered. Kane's voice came over the communication channel. War Master, you just learned the most important lesson in human warfare. What lesson? There's always another way. 6 months after the fall of the eternal formation, a galaxy was transforming. In council chambers across civilized space, military advisors struggled to adapt to a universe where warfare was no longer predictable. Admiral Kane walked through the halls of the Galactic Peace Station, humanity's first permanent diplomatic facility. Representatives from dozens of species, had come to study human military doctrine, but Kane knew they were missing the point. Commander Stone of the Galactic Council approached him in the observation lounge. Through the massive windows, they could see ships from 100 different worlds, a sight that would have been impossible during the rigid military hierarchies of the past. "Admiral, I need to understand something," Stone said. "Your people have revolutionized warfare, but you're not using that advantage to conquer the galaxy." "Why?" Kane sipped his coffee, a habit that still fascinated alien observers. "Because conquest was never the goal, Commander. We didn't break the patterns of war to become the new overlords. We broke them to prove they could be broken." Dr. Black joined them, her Scholar World credentials now carrying new weight throughout the galaxy. She had become humanity's unlikely ambassador, explaining human tactical philosophy to species who were still struggling to comprehend it. "The old system created stability through stagnation," she said. "Everyone knew their place, followed their patterns, accepted their limitations. But humans showed us that limitation is often just lack of imagination." On the former Claw Empire homeworld, General Vex had become an unexpected ally. His military academies now taught adaptive thinking alongside traditional tactics. The rigid formations that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia were being replaced by flexible, creative approaches. "My people spent centuries perfecting Pattern 7, he told his students, both Claw and human. "We believed perfection meant never changing. The humans taught us that perfection means never stopping change. But not everyone embraced the new era. In the dark reaches of space, remnants of the old military orders plotted humanity's destruction. They called themselves the Pattern Keepers, and they viewed human tactical innovation as a disease that threatened the natural order. High Commander Dark led the Pattern Keepers from his hidden fortress. His alliance included survivors from the Author, Void Hunters, traditionalists from the Iron Brotherhood, and fanatics who believed the old ways were sacred. "The humans have corrupted warfare itself," he declared to his followers. "They have turned honorable combat into chaos. This cannot stand." But even among the Pattern Keepers, change was inevitable. Young officers who had studied human tactics began questioning absolute adherence to tradition. A galaxy's military culture was fracturing along generational lines. Captain Rex, now promoted to Commodore, commanded a joint human-alien task force patrolling the Outer Rim. His crew included former enemies who had learned to appreciate unpredictable thinking. The sight of human and Claw officers working together would have been unthinkable a year ago. "Commodore, we're detecting an unknown fleet approaching from the Void," reported his sensor operator, Lieutenant Nova. Rex studied the readings. The ships were massive, clearly military, but following no known design pattern. "Analysis? They're not from any known species, sir. Configuration suggests they're from beyond our galactic arm. First contact with an entirely unknown civilization. And humanity would help lead the response." Rex smiled at the irony. A species that had been unknown to galactic politics just 2 years ago was now at the center of everything. Admiral Kane received the alert on Earth and immediately began planning. This would be the ultimate test of humanity's new approach to the unknown. "Sir, how do we prepare for an enemy we know nothing about?" asked his aide. "The same way we always do," Kane replied. "We don't prepare for specific tactics. We prepare to adapt to anything." Meanwhile, Dr. Black worked frantically to analyze the approaching alien signals. What she discovered changed everything. "Admiral, these aliens aren't coming to fight," she announced in an emergency briefing. "They're coming to learn." The transmission from the unknown fleet was simple but profound. "We have observed your conflicts. You have shown that patterns can change. We wish to understand how." The approaching aliens were refugees from their own rigid military culture. They had watched humanity break the galaxy's patterns and decided to seek new ways of thinking for themselves. As the unknown ships entered galactic space, they were met not by defensive formations or formal battle lines, but by diverse fleets representing dozens of species, all united by a new philosophy. War would never again be predictable. Patterns would never again be absolute. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, military academies taught the same lesson that humans had brought to the stars. There is always another way. The age of infinite possibility had begun.